let's enjoy tonight. It's a big one. And speaking of a big one, it's a big crossover segment with Jamie's photo, Rick Dhaliwal, and Don Taylor. Let's go. Look at that screen cap. My goodness.
Jamie's never looked better. That's a good shot of him. He's a good-looking guy.
He looks
That's
like
a nice
me when
photo.
he looks like me when I get frozen on the Donnie and Dhali Zoom.
Yeah.
Once a week.
Oh,
Looks
boys.
like his grade 12 photo.
Hey, Thomas.
Oh, man. Yeah, you know his mom has that one on the fridge. Boys, how are you today? It's a big game, don't you think?
Well,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. How are you? You're flying solo today.
Yeah.
I am.
That's commendable.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a ton of fun. I mean, I obviously miss Jamie. Love to have him here, especially for the crossover. But we'll make it through. That's the magic of radio. The show must go on.
Well, if there's one guy that can talk 2 hours nonstop, it's you.
You're not wrong. Brevity might not be my strong suit. You can look that one up, Rick. Boys, there's a lot to talk about. And before we get to Pettersson optimism and the Flames and all of the good stuff that we'll unpack over the course of the next 20 minutes, I do just want to bring the conversation and start with tonight, a game in which a win of any kind will put the Canucks to first overall in the West in mid-November, but also Bo Horvat's return. What do you expect from this market, from this fan base? How will they greet their former captain tonight?
I think that it will be overwhelmingly positive, but there'll be a smattering of boos. Now I know that's the easy answer, but everybody talks a big show when it comes to something like this. But when you actually see the guy out on the ice, I think you realize he did some mostly positive things here.
100%.
I'm trying to think of didn't stand up for Goldobin in Vegas. I mean, what are the bad things that Bo Horvat did at the end?
Yeah.
Probably, honestly, like even during his 9 years there, there's not much there.
No.
He deserves to be applauded. I think he will. You'll get the odd person booing him, and I don't think that'll come as any surprise to Bo.
Thomas, 10 years in Vancouver, ended up as captain, 600 games. Well, how many points, Donnie? You had the point total?
10th all-time in
10th
points.
all-time.
Canucks points.
This guy should never have left Vancouver. He should have played his entire career in Vancouver, but the business side of hockey caught up to him. And they picked JT Miller over him, and they knew the number for both sides, Thomas, and they made a business decision. Yeah, I am. I have a frog in my throat. But anyways, Thomas, they made a business decision. They picked JT over him. You couldn't sign both guys. You know that, right? And if you have looked at Bo's comments about returning to Vancouver, there's been some shots at management, right? I don't think he liked the way the contract negotiations went. And I think, Thomas, you would agree that there's some bitterness. He was not happy when him rejecting a Canucks offer in December was leaked to the media. He didn't like that. So he has nothing against Vancouver, nothing against the fans. I think a lot of his anger is towards management and how it ended up him not getting a deal in Vancouver.
Well, I'm curious because I was bringing this up right before you guys came on. I wondered if the reason that Bo may be booed tonight would be less about Bo and more about the idea of turning the page, the idea of him as a representative for a disappointing era. And we all know it's preposterous to blame him for it, but symbolically, in terms of, that trade coming right when they hired Rick Tocchet and this club started winning again, you can understand the symbolism that associates him, with some of the struggles that we've endured and covered over the past few years. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I could say that not a lot of team success there. But you could also say the same thing about Marcus Naslund, and they raised his number to the rafters. I don't remember him getting booed. Here's the thing, Thomas. We talked about him ripping into Canuck management clearly versus the fans or his teammates, coaches, that sort of thing. I think Canuck management's pretty popular right now, so maybe that's where some of the negative reception would come from. I think people are down with what's happening Canuck management-wise, and maybe that leads to some, a negative reception tonight. You never would have guessed that.
No,
but I think it's the case.
I agree. I think it's an interesting one.
Thomas, he didn't like. For me, 10 years of service in Vancouver's a lot. Yep. And Donnie brought up on the show about the bubble in Edmonton, and Bo scored some huge goals, especially in the St. Louis series. We showed those goals. He loved the community. He was a part of the community. He was a part of a lot of stuff with the fans. I just think the business side caught up to him at the end, and they picked another player over him, and I think he's still bitter. Hey, you don't think Bo Horvat right now, Thomas and Donnie, isn't going to bed going, look at the Canucks. They're 2 points out of first place overall in the standings, and he's probably going, you know what? I could have been that guy there helping him. You got to be honest. No one saw this start with the Canucks. I mean, they've caught everyone in the NHL off guard, but there's got to be a bit of him saying, geez, I leave, and now they're almost in first place overall in the NHL standings.
Yeah. Well, I think his contract would help soothe that wound. But here's another thing. And again, I think he gets applauded by and large tonight. Again, a smattering of boos. But we've got a lot of this in our inbox. Our Delaney's okay Terry Langley inbox, by the way, Thomas. Yep. We're getting a lot of here's Bo ripping into management, coming up with all these meaty quotes. Where was that fire when he played with the Canucks? We would have liked to seen more of that. So maybe that leads to a negative reception tonight. But again, I think it'll be mostly positive.
It will be interesting, and it will be very fun to analyze. No question about that. Let's get to some of the news around the team. Rick, Carson Soucy out 6 to 8 weeks. The club announced today. Anything coming on the back end?
You have to think, Thomas, they're working the phones knowing that Soucy's out 6 to 8 weeks. Do you revisit Zaradov and Tanev in Calgary? Donnie brought up Troy Stetcher. He's going to be a whole lot cheaper. I don't know if you guys would. Yeah, in Arizona. I don't know if you guys would go to Alexander Edler. He's sitting at home. I would imagine in Vancouver. I haven't seen him announce his retirement, which tells me that he probably still waiting, just like Phil Kessel is sitting out there. There's a lot of guys sitting waiting for teams to get rid of some cap space, and injuries popping up everywhere. I would say to you, Thomas, they're probably starting to work the phones overtime for a defenseman big time now that Soucy's out 6 to 8 weeks. Tanev is not going to be cheap. I've been told this morning there's a ton of teams in on him. He's got a no-trade clause. Vancouver's not on it. Canucks are pushing Garland and Beauvillier to the Flames, but they want a prospect that could step in and play right now, Thomas, and he's already rejected one contract offer from Calgary. Tanev, I've been told things change, but they want to send him back east. They don't want to send him to Vancouver. But the things change. Canucks can make one whale of an offer, and then you could change. But I do believe, I've been told by numerous people, the Calgary does not want to trade Zaradov and Tanev to Vancouver, but who knows? Things change daily.
Does that make sense to you, gentlemen? Like, why wouldn't you just accept the best offer? Why would you have any worry about whether or not you're sending a guy to Vancouver or not?
They do.
It never made sense to me with, like, Schneider and Edmonton. That happened in Vancouver. The Canucks did that once upon a time, right, where they took a slightly lesser return for Corey Schneider because they didn't want him in division. None of it makes sense to me. Does it make sense to you, Donnie?
Well, I guess it makes sense to me. I guess part of it's emotional. You don't want, somebody who used to be say they sent, Höglander to Calgary and he ends up being a star there. That would be extra embarrassing. So a lot of it is human nature. I think what may play into this a bit, though, Thomas, is that weren't things supposed to be the other way around? Wasn't. Maybe Calgary still believes in it itself. I'm not so sure. But wasn't it supposed to be, Calgary would be the big dog taking advantage of the Canucks, who were a bottom feeder? It was it's turned very quickly here. So maybe that plays into it a bit. But I do remember deals between the Flames and the Canucks. I'm sure you guys do as well.
Oh, yeah.
Paul Reinhart, Craig Cox back in the day, Dana Merson. Yeah. Sven Birchie, which as it turned out, it looked like kind of a steal for the Canucks at first. It turned out to be pro Calgary. So I can understand the hesitation, but there is some history there. And a lot of it goes back to, and this happens a lot in hockey, a relationship between Cliff Fletcher, who was with the Flames, and Pat Quinn, who was his buddy in Vancouver. And
good friends.
I remember Pat admitting, hey, my friend helped me out, and he sent me Paul Reinhart. So a lot of it could come down to relationships between general managers or somebody in the front office. But I think it comes down to human nature. But there is that hesitation part, but there is precedent for it.
And Thomas, we can only report on what we're hearing today. Things can change, right? Canucks can up their offer, and Calgary says, holy smokes, we can't turn this down, like you just said, Thomas. So things change. As of today, this is what we're hearing, but it's certainly suspect to change for sure.
And we'll see Chris Tanev and the Calgary Flames play the Canucks tomorrow on the second leg of this back-to-back for Vancouver. Let's talk Elias Pettersson. We got to talk Elias Pettersson. Patrick Alvin with some commentary. Seemed pretty confident commentary to Frank Saravalli yesterday. Rick, what are you hearing? How excited should Canucks fans be about where things are trending?
Okay, so the two sides never stopped talking, even after Pettersson said in the summer he wanted to wait. Rutherford and Alvin kept the lines of communication open with Pat Brisson and J.P. Barry. Pettersson never once said he didn't want to re-sign in Vancouver. He needed time to figure things out. Is it going to be long-term, short-term? It's a big decision in his life, Thomas. He's a very calculated person. He doesn't rush into things. The salary cap still needs to rise. It's going to be a big number. Most people think the number will start with a 12 or high 11s. There is optimism, I can report from key people, that it will get done. The Canucks start, and Pettersson sitting atop the NHL scoring lead. The Canucks having a tremendous season. All that stuff helps. But certainly hearing that the two sides are talking, and there's a lot of people are thinking, you know what, it's good. It's all positive. And again, things change, but today, Thomas certainly hearing optimism.
Well, things change, and this is a good example, right? We're only 2 months removed from, Pettersson wanting to wait until the end of the season, and all of a sudden we're here. Is it just the start, Rick? Is there anything else that's changed? We know Pettersson's been playing through some stuff based on Rick Tockett's commentary about it. What changed to bring about this newfound optimism?
I think Patrick Alvin deserves a lot of credit. He's been in constant contact with Brisson and also J.P. Barry, and just pecking away. Is it short term or long term? I've certainly had people tell me it's going to be shorter term, but Thomas, a shorter term deal is going to be easier to do. If you go 7-8 years, you're talking a multitude. They still need the cap. They're going to have to wait and see how much the cap goes up, right? But then, Donnie brings up
the OEL.
OEL is going to hurt you.
OEL hurt you more next year than this year.
When OEL's making $4 million from the Canucks to do nothing, that hurts. That hurts. Never mind if they got to retain on Garland. But that $4 million they got to give to OEL for sitting or playing elsewhere, that's going to hurt. But the salary cap, I don't know, Thomas. I just hear it's today that we can report that there seems to be a lot of good positivity around it.
How can there not be positivity at this point? Just the way he's playing. I mean, unless you give him $14-15 million a year. I mean, what's an overpay right now for Elias Pettersson?
Well, he might be worth $14-15 a year. To be totally honest with you.
Is he worth what Matthews is?
Well, no, he's not, and I'll tell you why he's not worth Matthews.
But they're going to argue that.
No, I'm going to tell you something else. Goals. Matthews has got 200 goals in his last 4 years. That is the one that agents love, is the goal scoring. And Matthews has got 200 goals in his last 4 years, 50-year, Donnie. Mm-hmm. And Pettersson just doesn't have that 50-goal season to get up to his neighborhood. But I still think we can all agree it's going to be a pretty decent number.
Yeah, and sorry, to be clear, I didn't mean his market value is $13-14 million so much as his actual contributions. Like, in a world where you sign Elias Pettersson for $14 million, guess what? He's still worth $14 million. More than that, frankly, given how well he's played and how much he means to this team.
Well, Donnie said a couple of weeks ago, would you take Pettersson or Matthews right now?
I mean, I think still Matthews, no? Yeah. Matthews has 13 goals in 15 games.
Yeah, leading the NHL. Yeah.
This guy's
Yeah, but the other guy's leading the NHL in points.
I know, but this guy's a historically great goal scorer. I mean, Matthews is historical comparables are like Mike Bossy, Alex Ovechkin, Pavel Bure. You know what I mean? Like Pettersson's one of the best centermen in the game, but Matthews is a once in a generation goal scorer, or certainly is trending.
Maybe
that way
more
based
of a
on his
unique
first 8 seasons.
Yeah, it's not a criticism of Pettersson, just that a different type of talent and more of a unique talent with Matthews, and that he scores goals.
Yeah, no,
like it's
in bunches.
And like you say, Rick, it's just something not everybody can do. I mean, everybody has a specific skill that trumps another. But
goals is number one. Number one.
Right.
Yep.
Number one has been for forever.
You want to help your agent out in hockey? Score goals.
And then they'll do cartwheels.
Yes. They'll do cartwheels over and over and over again.
That's the key. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us again this week. We'll do it again. Same bat time, same bat channel next week ahead of American Thanksgiving. And I'll, of course, see you on Donnie and Dhali on Friday.
Absolutely. And if you need us later this afternoon, you're flying solo again. Commendable.
No.
Let us know.
Donnie, this guy can talk for 6 hours nonstop by himself. He doesn't need any help.
I often do, actually, Rick. Sometimes you're on the other end.
No, I know you
Maybe
do. I know. I've had 1 hour phone calls with you.
That's you on the phone calls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
See you, boys.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, Thomas.